Today is January the 10th, 2026. And I was out here in my garden getting ready for the cold front to come in, looking at some of the raised beds that I'm implementing. And the message came to my mind. When Walmart becomes a pyramid, a biblical pattern they never saw coming. Let me teach this slowly, because this is not a message for everybody. This is for the remnant, for the one who can see patterns, not just products. The question is simple. According to the Bible, when will people look at these big stores, Walmart, Target, Amazon warehouses, and say, that used to be the pyramid? To answer that, you have to understand something the Bible shows over and over again. People never recognize the empire while it's still working. They only recognize it after it collapses. Let's start with Egypt. When Joseph brought his family into Egypt, nobody called it bondage. Nobody called it a pyramid system. They said it was a blessing. They said it was provision. But the Bible says the famine kept getting worse, and the people kept coming back to Pharaoh. First, they gave their money. Then they gave their livestock. Then they gave their land. And finally, they gave themselves. That's the pyramid. A system that looks like help at the beginning, but ends in dependence. A system that centralizes power at the top and drains the people at the bottom. But notice something. Israel didn't call it bondage until they couldn't leave. They didn't call it slavery until the system stopped working for them. That's the pattern. Now look at Babylon. Babylon was the height of culture, wealth, and technology. It was the center of the world. Nobody called it wicked. Nobody called it idolatry. They called it opportunity. They called it advancement. They called it the future. But when the handwriting showed up on the wall, when the system collapsed in one night, that's when people said, Babylon has fallen. Not while it was working, only after it fell. Same pattern. Then look at Rome. Rome was the superpower of the world. Roads, aqueducts, trade routes, military strength. People trusted Rome the same way people today trust corporations. They believed Rome was too big to fail. They believed Rome would last forever. But when Rome collapsed, when the economy broke, when the supply lines failed, when the empire couldn't sustain itself anymore, that's when people said, This was the beast. Not before, after. Dependence, convenience, control, collapse, clarity. That is the biblical pattern. Now let's bring it to today. People look at Walmart and they see low prices. They see convenience. They see everything in one place. They see a blessing. They don't see the structure behind it. They don't see the dependence. They don't see the extraction. They don't see the centralization of power. But the remnant sees it. The remnant sees that when one system controls your food, your clothes, your medicine, your household goods, your survival, that's Egypt. That's Babylon. That's Rome. That's the pyramid. But the world won't see it until the collapse. So when will people finally say, that used to be the pyramid? They'll say it when the shelves go empty. They'll say it when the supply chain breaks. They'll say it when the trucks stop running. They'll say it when the building is still standing, but the system behind it is gone. They'll say it when they walk into a store that used to be full and see nothing but dust, empty racks, and silence. They'll say it when they realize they depend on a structure that was never built to last. They'll say it when they understand that convenience was the bait and dependence was the trap. That's when they'll say it. Not while the system is working, not while the shelves are full, not while the prices are low, not while the illusion is strong. They'll say it after the collapse exposes the truth. And here's the part most people miss. The remnant always see the pattern before the collapse. The remnant sees the structure while everyone else sees the convenience. The remnant sees the dependence while everyone else sees the discount. The remnant sees the pyramid while everyone else sees the store. That's why you're hearing this message now, because the remnant is always called to see early, prepare early, and understand early. The Bible says, come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sin, and that you receive not of her plagues. That's not just spiritual, that's economic, that's practical, that's structural. It means don't build your life on a system that can collapse overnight. So let me close with this. When will people look at Walmart and say, that used to be the pyramid? When the system fails, when the convenience disappears, when the dependence is exposed, when the collapse reveals what the remnant already knew. The world sees it last. The remnant sees it first. And if you're hearing this, it's because you're not called to be blind. You're called to be early. You're called to be aware. You're called to be the remnant that recognize the pattern before the collapse makes it obvious. That's the teaching, that's the pattern, and that's the truth.